let's dive into a really fascinating biblical puzzle from the book of Judges. It's kind of like a classic mystery, but instead of who done it, it's more like who said it. And the answer really hinges on this one super interesting idea, the difference between someone's actual identity and the authority they've been given. So here's the big question. Who exactly is this messenger, who's often just called an angel, that speaks to Israel in the second chapter of Judges? The text itself is, well, a little cryptic, and the answer might just challenge some pretty common ideas about how God speaks in the Bible. And right here, this is the heart of the mystery. This messenger speaks in the first person, as if they are God. They literally say, "I brought you up from Egypt." Now, for a lot of people, that's an open and shut case. But is it really that simple? From a traditional Christian point of view, when you see someone speaking with God's eye, it's often taken as proof that the speaker is, in fact, divine. So the logical next step is to say this must be Jesus, appearing before his incarnation, what theologians call a Christophany. But let's dig a little deeper and see what the original context might suggest. So, let's start by unpacking that main piece of evidence, the divine voice. Does speaking as God automatically mean the speaker is God? So this really boils down to two competing ideas. The common view is that divine speech proves divine identity. Simple. But the source material for this explainer suggests something else, something really rooted in ancient Hebrew thought, that this kind of speech demonstrates divine authority. Big difference. And this brings us to a really crucial concept, shliach. It's this principle of agency. The idea is simple, but it's super powerful. An appointed messenger is, for all intents and purposes, regarded as the person who sent them. Their words carry the exact same weight, the same authority as their masters. Think of it like this. When a company's press secretary stands up and says, "I am pleased to announce our quarterly earnings," nobody in the room thinks the secretary personally owns the company. Of course not. They're speaking for the CEO, using the I of the one who sent them. They are a shaliach. And hey, this isn't just some modern analogy we're forcing onto the text. The Hebrew Bible is full of examples like this. Just look at this one from Exodus. The text introduces it by saying, "Thus says the Lord." But it's Moses who's actually speaking. And what does he say? "I will go out into the midst of Egypt." Not he will go out. Moses is literally speaking with God's voice as his authorized agent. And it's not a one-off thing either. It happens again in Deuteronomy. Moses is giving God's laws to Israel, and he says, "My commandments, and I will give the rain for your land." Now, those are clearly God's promises, but they're coming straight out of Moses' mouth in the first person. This shows us pretty clearly that in the biblical world, a human agent can absolutely speak with God's eye. Okay, so if the divine speech isn't definitive proof of identity, what other clues does the text give us? Let's switch gears and look at the language and the location and see how this helps build our case. All right, the key Hebrew word here is malach. Now, while it almost always gets translated as angel, its basic meaning is just messenger or envoy. Context is everything. It can be a heavenly messenger for sure, but it can just as easily be a human one. And if there was any doubt about that, the book of Malachi just comes right out and says it. It says that a priest, a human priest, is the malach of the Lord. I mean, there it is, in black and white. The Bible itself tells us that a human can hold the official title of God's messenger. That's a huge clue. Then you've got the geography. The messenger in Judges 2 comes up from Gilgal. Now, Gilgal isn't some heavenly dimension. It's a real earthly city. It was a major hub for Israel's priesthood and their covenant ceremonies. Heavenly beings don't usually commute from human towns to deliver messages. This little detail points very strongly toward a human figure. Okay, so we've gathered our clues, right? We've got the nature of the speech, the meaning of the word malach, and the importance of the location. Now let's put it all together and build a profile of our mystery messenger. So what are we looking for? Well, number one, someone who has the authority to speak as God. 2, a human who can be called a malach. 3, someone connected to the priestly city of Gilgal. And 4, since the message is all about Israel breaking the covenant, it's probably someone who is known for being a guardian of that covenant. And when you line all that up, a prime suspect emerges from Israel's history, Phinehas the priest. I mean, think about it. As a priest, he could be called a malach. He was famous for being zealous for God's covenant, and his home base was connected to places just like Gilgal. Phinehas fits the profile perfectly. So let's bring it all home for the final verdict. We're going to lay out the core difference between these two ways of reading this really interesting passage. Let's just put the two views right next to each other. In the divine being view, the speaker is Jesus. The I speech is all about proving his identity. Malak has to mean angel, and the location is just symbolic. But in the human agent view, which is based on our source material, the speaker is Phinehas. The speech shows divine authority. Malak simply means messenger, and the location, Gilgal, is a literal real-world place. So the crucial takeaway is this. The story in Judges 2 isn't necessarily about the being of the speaker, but about the authority they carry. A human messenger's voice can be God's voice because they are an authorized agent, a shaliyach, speaking on his behalf. And that really leaves us with a final, much bigger question to chew on. When we read an ancient text, how much does understanding the original context, the language, the culture, the big ideas of the time, change what a story actually means? It's a pretty powerful reminder that sometimes the deepest truths are found just by looking a little bit closer. Thanks for joining us.